Is the future of manufacturing quietly being reshaped by the silent gears of artificial intelligence? Well, today we're going to step into the world of AI-driven manufacturing, a realm where efficiency meets personalization, and where the traditional boundaries of production are being redrawn. Because joining me today is Humberto, Principal Solutions Engineer at Gigster, and he's also a seasoned expert with over 15 years of experience in the software industry, including notable stints at Cloudflare and in Moby. But Humberto stands at the forefront of integrating AI into manufacturing, turning the futuristic into the now. And our conversation today will not only highlight how AI is revolutionizing the manufacturing process, but also delve into the ethical implications and that symbiotic future of human and machine collaboration. From predictive analytics to cobots, we're going to unpack the layers of AI's transformative power in manufacturing today. Now, before I get today's guests on, it's time for me to mention the sponsors of Tech Talks Daily. And in an era where digital security is non-negotiable, legacy managed file transfer tools, they simply don't cut it now. So that's where Kiteworks comes in, revolutionizing the MFT landscape with unparalleled security credentials, including the much coveted FedRAMP moderate authorization. This isn't just about compliance, though. It's about offering a secure, efficient platform for today's remote workforce. So with Kiteworks, you can benefit from advanced file sharing, email security, and customizable integrations, all within a platform designed to safeguard your most sensitive data. So don't let outdated technology compromise your security. Step into the future of secure managed file transfer. Get started today by going to kiteworks.com. That's kiteworks.com, where security meets sophistication. But now it's time to get today's guests on. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to San Francisco, where today's guest is waiting to join us. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Yes, of course, Neil. So I lead solutions engineering for Gigster. Now, Gigster is a smart software development platform based around the freelancer network. And for them, I work on solutions engineering, which means planning, architecting, and orchestrating basically the technical background for our customer projects. And I've been working around 15 years in the software space, including work in Moby and Cloudflare. And in particular, now my focus is on AI, machine learning, data, and other advanced solutions.
And as you said there, you've got a lot of experience, not only at Gigster, but also your previous roles as Cloudflare and in Moby, etc. But I've got to ask for someone that understands that AI is not something that's completely new here, that just arrived 18 months ago, and you've seen everything evolve. How do you see AI reshaping the foundational aspects of things like software development and its integration into other industries, particularly manufacturing? Now there seems to be this mainstream adoption of AI.
Definitely. So now we see ever more levels of data, more signals, both coming from consumers themselves, as well as more signals and data available from manufacturing processes and supply chains as well. So what this leads us to is more opportunities, one, for optimization. Second, the ability to build products that are already, to a degree, AI aware, AI ready, able to connect themselves with different systems. And it also allows for different ways to get closer to the consumer, for companies that are involved in manufacturing to be able to adapt and anticipate to consumer needs to a degree.
And the reason I mentioned manufacturing a few moments ago, before you came on the podcast, I was doing a little research on you, and I was reading your article where you discussed the critical stages where AI can significantly impact manufacturing in particular. So for anyone that's obviously listening, not seen that article, can you expand on how companies are leveraging AI to navigate the balance between mass production and that increasing demand for personalization? Because it's quite a tricky balance, isn't it?
It definitely is, because traditionally mass production requires a lot of planning for capacity, planning for production, planning for logistics, and so on. And so to be able to do that at scale and also anticipate consumer demand, which are always shifting, can be complicated. So to do this effectively, I think it's a combination of making sure that some of the key manufacturing steps are already set in place, but also allowing enough flexibility to introduce customization at certain levels of the production and distribution cycle. And one of the advantages that data and AI provides is that there's a lot more leading indicators that start to give you an indication of where consumers are going. So with predictive analytics, you have a lot better idea of where consumer trends are going, what's going to be popular in the fall, even in the summer, and also to be able to plan ahead for that, because it's always better to be able to anticipate needs than to have to go out of the way at the last moment to fulfill them. And the other thing that's changed in manufacturing that's also tied into this is that consumers are obviously consuming a lot more services and even digital goods that inherently live in the digital space. But obviously there's also more traditional physical goods, and this area of overlap where there can be a combination of a bundle of physical and digital as part of one offering. And obviously there's a manufacturing component there, and there's also more of a digital component there. And that's where data and AI can really help to optimize both.
And of course, the concept of cobots working alongside humans, complementing workers, not replacing them, that is incredibly exciting to me. And it also represents this fascinating evolution in manufacturing. So if I was to ask you to look into the future through a virtual crystal ball, how do you envision the future workplace with such collaborations like that? And are there any implications that you think it might have on workforce development and training and those kind of areas too?
Definitely. And I actually think this is one of the most interesting areas of this whole trend, because there's a really unique opportunity for mutual learning in this with the cobot scenario, because both humans and sort of the artificial helpers each have their own strengths and weaknesses, right? And so things like generative AI, for example, can help accelerate learning, can help prepare a learning curricula for, let's say, a human needs to learn a new part of a production process and needs to be able to learn it fairly quickly, and there's no real time to go out and get a human tutor and so on. So in that way, the cobot itself, to a degree, or the let's call it the learning extension of the cobot, can help the human learn. And at the same time, this notion of cobots, they basically will learn from the accumulated experience of human workers, right? So what has worked, let's say, in a manufacturing process, or what has worked in doing pretty much anything within a process, and that becomes humans teaching these cobots, and so that becomes a really interesting collaboration where cobots can learn from historical best practices, and humans, with their extra context, are able to obviously add their own particular skill sets, but you have a mutually beneficial relationship where both can contribute.
And generative AI has been highlighted by so many experts as a game changer for manufacturing, enabling rapid prototyping and ideation and so many great things. But of course, when we start talking about Gen AI, the next thing I've got to mention is, given the legal challenges around things like intellectual property, combined with Gen AI, as seen with so many others out there, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on better navigating these emerging legal and ethical considerations, especially when we're talking about responsible AI? It's a huge topic right now, but I'm just curious what your thoughts are on this.
Yeah, this is an interesting and challenging question, because it becomes a little bit of a cat and mouse game. So technology always tends to outpace regulation and laws and so on. And so right now we're at an era where from a technical standpoint, there's the possibility of generating all of these digital goods, and then the digital goods that can become the molds for physical goods that are based around things that really have IP protection around them, and that perhaps should not be produced. And how do we protect that? But I think the advantage there is also that some of this technology that's used to replicate can be turned around and used to detect as well. So using artificial intelligence as well, and let's say computer vision or other forms of analysis is actually can become possible to quickly detect, let's say, cases of intellectual property infringement in the wild, be it on a e-commerce website or obviously, like, this is already being done with things like streaming video and audio. Like, this is already in place, but on a more expansive way, it can be done. And where it also might get interesting is that it might allow for more efficient and expedient licensing. For example, let's say a case where let's say you want to build something, or to put out something in, let's say, a manufacturing standpoint that does need to be licensed, and let's say you scan what you're planning and it says, oh, actually, this design is partially owned by X company. It might allow in the future for a manufacturer to say, okay, well, let me get a quick sub-license to actually produce this in the right way, or things of that nature. So I think we're going to get to a world where, through new forms of attribution supported by generative AI and other technologies, it can become efficient and more creative in a way that also respects the rights of rights holders from an IP perspective.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, especially around the efficiency point there. And I think with the AI's continuously growing influence on the manufacturing sector, there's also something we don't talk about enough, and that is the potential for a significant environmental impact through more efficient production processes and reduced waste. Is this something that's important to you at Gigster too? And if it is, what's your approach to sustainability in those AI-driven projects?
That's a great question, and it definitely is important to us, and we look at it from several angles. One is that inherently, processes that are streamlined are inherently more efficient, and that leads to an energy saving wherever those processes touch energy consumption. And this, if you think about, let's say, in a manufacturing process, to the degree that you can reduce, let's say, unexpected spikes in demand that can trigger, let's say, you need extra fast shipping by plane, where if you had planned ahead of time, you could have shipped by ship or rail, and that is drastically potentially more efficient. Then that's an environmental plus right there. The other side of things is from the AI perspective itself. So there's been technologies recently that have been, inherently they consume a lot of energy. Obviously blockchain and other technologies have been, particularly highlighted for energy consumption. And as far as AI in particular, the training stages of large models are very consumption intensive. And so to the degree that part of our work involves looking at customer needs and saying, well, what do you actually need at the proper scale? And we're not going to be doing, large scale AI for AI's sake and building gigantic models just to build them. Then that also has a positive positive impact from this kind of environmental standpoint of saying, well, we're going to reuse a model that already exists, and therefore you're going to use it for inference, which itself is a very low impact, comparatively speaking, mode of energy use and so on. So the more we actually optimize AI, the use of software, the use of AI itself, that also leads to a positive impact there.
And I also wanted to highlight that the delivery phase of manufacturing is also undergoing somewhat of a revolution right now, especially with AIs helping things like demand forecasting and supply chain optimization. But again, from your perspective, though, what are the next frontiers for AI in ensuring that products not only reach consumers more efficiently, but also align with their changing needs? Because again, a big talking point right now, isn't it?
Definitely. And so I think there's two sides to this. One is that, as one of the things I was mentioning earlier, is there's ever more signals and touch points with customers, right? There's customers at the point of sale, there's customers on the web, there's communities that customers interact with online that influence demand, requirements, and so on. So the ability to ingest this information within a data system that involves AI and is able to take this information and provide feedback to product and to manufacturing, that helps align with consumers' changing need, because you can see their potential use of a product or their attitudes towards a product or their needs change almost in real time. And as we were talking about earlier, this notion of testing and trialing in batches and allowing for customization also allows this adaptation to changing needs.
And finally, we're obviously already in April. If we dare to look beyond 2024, I know it's early still, yeah, but are there any other emerging technologies or indeed trends that you think will further revolutionize that manufacturing industry? And is there anything you can share around, or any teasers you can share around how Gigster is preparing to be at the forefront of some of these changes too?
Right, definitely. So there's a lot of interesting changes that seem to be on the horizon and quickly coming to the field. So
yeah,
the notion of pervasive AI is becoming is really coming into the fold. This notion that AI is not only happening centrally in a particular in the cloud or someplace else, but AI also happening at the edge within our own devices, be it within our phones or within devices that exist physically, and so AI being more pervasive all around is something that's definitely coming. And along with this are the effects of data, flowing seamlessly across supply chains. So this notion of data silos continuing to splinter and really allowing for data to flow to where it needs to be able to act intelligently at whatever stage of, let's say, a production cycle or even at the level of consumer use is something that's going to be important. And overall, one of the things that's also key is that everybody is going to be made smarter by AI. This includes consumers and producers, and so we're all going to be living in this new world where we're all being helped by AI to be smarter, and I think that'll change a lot of things in manufacturing and beyond.
Well, you've shared so many golden insights today, and before I let you go, I'm going to ask you to leave one final gift with everybody listening around the world today, and that is a book to add to our Amazon wish list. I always ask my guests to leave something behind that other people listening can check out. Maybe it'll inspire those, but maybe it can inspire them. But what book would you like to add to that wish list, and why?
Well, thank you, and I appreciate that question. And what I would like to leave our audience with is a classic that I've very much liked for many years. It's Carl Sagan's The Demon Haunted World, and it's a book that really champions the scientific method and critical thinking as a counterpoint to shallow thinking and superstition and so on, and this kind of a skeptical scientific view as really a way to understand the world better. And I think that has very broad applications, and it's one of my favorites.
Absolutely love that. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. And for anyone listening, just wants to find out more information about yourself, maybe contact your team, or just learn more about Gigster and how you're helping businesses and manufacturers around the world, what's the best starting point for everything?
Yeah, good question. Definitely our website at gigster.com.
So, well, I'll add links to that. I might even add a link to your LinkedIn as well, just in case anybody has got any questions they'd like to ask you personally. And just listening to your conversation today, it reminded me of, I think it was, who was it now? Looking back, I think it was Henry Ford. And he said any customer can have a car painted any colour that he wants as long as it's black. Because back then, Ford could get away with that stuff, this lack of personalisation, because manufacturing processes gave them such a competitive advantage and made that price of the car so cheap. But 100 years later, manufacturers now need to be doing both, don't they? They need a more customisable, personalised product, and they need streamlined, efficient processes to make it. And as a result, manufacturers are increasingly turning to AI. And listening to you break that down today, those three manufacturing stages where AI can help the most in things like consumer demand for customization, ideation and testing and production, I think you brought it all together beautifully today. So just a big thank you for sitting down and sharing your story today.
Well, thank you for so much for having me on.
After my conversation with Humberto today, I think it's clear that the journey of AI in manufacturing is not just about automation. It's so much more than that. It's actually about augmenting human potential and pushing the limits of what's possible. And his insights shared today reveal a manufacturing future that is not only more efficient and sustainable, but one that also aligns closely with the nuances of consumer demand. So everybody wins. And AI's role in manufacturing, that's also evolving, heralding this new era where machines learn from humans and humans learn from machines, creating this tapestry of innovation that is bound almost to redefine the landscape of manufacturing. But after this conversation, I find myself pondering the endless possibilities of what AI can bring to the table, and also wonder what new horizons will AI open next in our relentless pursuit of progress and personalisation in manufacturing. So I invite you to share your thoughts and join this conversation on how we can navigate this exciting frontier together. So listeners, what's your take on the future of AI in manufacturing? How do you see AI shaping our world in the years to come? Please share your thoughts. Let's keep this dialogue going by simply emailing me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, just @NeilC.Hughes. And if you enjoyed today's episode, join me again tomorrow. We've got another topic that I also invite you to join me in discussing. Other than that, just thank you for listening as always. Really appreciate your time. And until next time, don't be a stranger.